Alright guys, Phil here with the new Craftsman 23 gauge pin nailer brushless RP. Now, I was looking for something that I could use. I do a lot of smaller projects. I also do construction for a living, and I was looking for something that could do some smaller trim, like some cabinetry, things like that, that wouldn't blow it apart. Like the 18 gauge, the 16 gauge, and the 15 gauge brad nailers do. I love the Craftsman cordless nailer line. I really have enjoyed their 18 gauge, their 16 gauge, and their narrow crown stapler as well. And so we've been looking forward to some of these newer products like the pin nailer. I've also heard rumors that there's a coil nailer coming out. And so I wanted to do a review on this for you guys so that you guys could see how it works. So we're going to use it on some of these things that you might use a pin nailer for. I did a cabinetry job earlier today, but the customer was standing there watching me, so I didn't get to do a video, unfortunately. But anyway, I wanted to come on here and do this review for you guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you guys how it can go through some harder wood, some finer things. We have these little buttons that, as you know, when you use a bigger nailer like an 18 gauge or a 16 gauge, if you guys are doing any kind of small, maybe hobby shop stuff, you know that these things end up blowing apart whenever you try putting a nail inside of them a lot of times. And so we're going to do this video showing you guys that it can put a nail directly through these without blowing them apart. We're also going to show you putting them into some hardwoods like this. This is some Purple Heart, very hard wood. And then we're going to put it in some walnut. We're going to put it in these little beads. Not that you would ever do it, but just to show how delicate these nails can be. Also, we're going to put it in some of these wheels here. As you know, again, these wheels can blow apart just because of the grain that's in them. A lot of times you put a bigger nail through those and they will blow apart. And then we're going to just put it in some of these finer pieces of wood. And then last but not least, the infamous pressed fiber board, like, you know, your flooring, you know, you use it in shelving, whatever. So you know how hard that stuff can be. So this is going to be a great test on these brads. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how it works on this walnut here. And I have 5/8 pin nails in there right now. I'm going to show you. All right, and as you can see, it went flush. There is absolutely no nail sticking through there at all. It does a great job of hiding it. Whenever I get down like that, you can see, but there's also some other little holes in here. This thing's been around the shop for a while. All right, next we're going to go through some of these smaller things. Now what I'm going to do, so you can see how it does, is I'm going to put these things on this piece of walnut here and show you how it nails through into the walnut. Okay, and as you can see, this is very, again, very flush. No issues there. And it's stuck really well. So it's not just barely sitting in there, as you might expect, but it is really anchored into that walnut. Next, we're going to try one of these buttons here. Now, again, you can tell it's really anchored in there. Again, nothing, I can't feel anything. And the indentation that the nail makes is very minimal. Now we're going to try this wheel here, and I'm going to just kind of go all over this wheel, because as you would normally do if you're trying to make maybe something hobby like. Now you can see where the nail came out the side on this part, but that was just because of my aim. But the rest of them, if I pick it up, there's nothing here. It is anchored very firmly onto this piece of walnut. All right, now we're going to try something a little bit different here. I'm going to put this thing on there. I'm doing this with one hand, so don't want to ricochet and hit myself, but I am going to shoot right through that bead there. Now it went through, as you can see. The nail is through there, and I don't know, it did not go through it. It must have kind of curved there. Let me try this again. Hopefully it did not ricochet and almost hit me, but I don't think it did. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Now you can see it. If I hold this up there, you can see it through that bead, and yet the bead is still intact. There is no cracks in it. Again, not that this matters to the guys that are carpenters, but if you are doing little odds and ends, you never know what you're going to use a pin nailer for. So this just goes to show how delicate it is. Another thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this dowel here, and I'm going to anchor this wooden dowel, and this is a birch dowel, by the way. Anchor that into that walnut, and again, it is anchored very well. Can't pull it off of there. No pin head sticking through there. All right, so I'm going to set that off to the side. Sorry about my floor. It is a mess here in this shop. All right, so now we're going to move on to the Purple Heart. Now, Purple Heart, for you guys that work with wood all the time, you know it's a very hard wood. It makes walnut look like nothing. It is a very hard, dense, grained wood, and so I am going to really put this thing to the test by shooting into this. Now, what I'm going to do is first, you know what, this piece of pine is going to be too thick, but we will use this for this MDF later. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to use this button, and I'm going to shoot through into the Purple Heart, and we'll see how it does. Now, it looks like it was bending the nails pretty bad on that, as would be expected, but if you were going directly into this, it does sink it flush, as you can see right there. As you can tell, it sinks it flush really well. And so if you're using a thinner material, you know what, let me try one of these. If we're using something like this, it might anchor it. Let's try it. All right, let's try that. Oh yeah, there it goes, firm and anchored into that Purple Heart. Now that is pretty impressive. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually put this thing to another test. We're going to turn it up on its side like this and shoot it directly into the grain. See how it does on this. All right, again, just sinks it right in. And these again are 5/8 pin nails. They are doing a great job. So next, like I said, last but not least, we are going to try shooting through this hard pressed MDF. Now, this is a piece of flooring that I have laying around the shop, just something that I use for a surface, mix glues on and everything else, mix epoxy on. But we're going to use this and we're going to see if it'll shoot through there. Now, if you've ever done a stairway or anything with these MDF floors, you know that it is a really hard thing to get a nail to go through there. It's almost impossible to drive a nail with a hammer through them. And then if you're using a brad nail, a lot of times the brads, if they go through, will not go all the way and countersink, and you end up having to use a punch to get them down. All kinds of annoyance trying to do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to see if this pin nailer can do any better. All right, so here we go. All right, first shot went through, and it did get into that piece of pine there. All right, let's see if we can get more than one in there. All right. Again, it does just a fantastic job going through that pressed board. And yeah, I really like this thing so far. So the pros and the cons: it is very heavy. This is a con, obviously. It is a very heavy tool, just like any cordless nail gun is. They are heavy. In my opinion, it's still worth it. You don't have to lug the hose around. It just makes it so much easier, and to be honest, it's not as noisy in the customer's house. It's not as noisy in my house. I enjoy using the cordless nail guns, excuse me, and I prefer the Craftsman line. Another con that I have, just maybe a pet peeve with me, but I have children now. They are not allowed down in my workshop when I'm not here, but just the thought of them getting down here scares me with this thing down here, because, let me see if I can demonstrate this in a safe manner. Just give me 1 second. I should have been prepared for this, but I'm not. Let me see. Okay, I have this piece of craft foam here, and I'm just going to prop that up on that wall there. Now, this has a safety right here. Okay, that is the only safety feature that prohibits you from firing. Normally, there's a push safety that makes sure that you're pushing down before you launch I don't want to say projectile, but a nail out of these nail guns. On all the other Craftsman line that I've used, they have that, but on the pin nailer, I'm just going to show you real quick. All right, let me see. Oh, I'm out of nails. Well, that would make a difference. Anyway, on the pin nailer, that does not function. So what it does is it overrides that, and you can just shoot without pressing it up against a solid surface. Let's see. I have a few nails in there. Well, I would take those out and reload them, but I cannot with doing it with one hand. So you guys are going to have to take my word for it. This right here is not a safety. This is just a piece of rubber that clips on and clips off. Let me, to protect it from damaging whatever you're nailing. But there is no safety there. So whenever you are ready to fire, make sure that you're all the way up against your material that you're nailing, and make sure that you're wearing safety goggles. I know everything says to wear safety goggles nowadays, but with this, I really would recommend wearing safety goggles. Also, just kind of be aware of your surroundings, because that pin nail could go anywhere, and if it went into your hand or into your leg, as we saw, it goes into this hard wood without really any issues at all. And so if you were to get that on your body, I can't imagine how deep it would go, how much it would hurt. So just be aware of that. Those are really the only two cons I have. The pros you saw for yourself. It works really well. It's also very quiet. A lot of the other nail guns are, you can hear the motor revving pretty hard before it shoots. And so, of course, this one being brushless, I think that is a big plus for the volume on this. Another nail gun I do have is I have the 21 gauge or not 21 gauge, 21 degree framing nailer. And that is an awesome nail gun as well. As far as another pro that I like, it is fairly compact. Even though it is heavy, it is pretty compact. I don't have my 18 gauge here to compare it to, but I do have, let me grab this here. I do have my 20 volt drill here, and of course this is the smaller one, but it's the hammer drill. And as you can tell, body wise, there's not a whole lot of difference there. Let me get it lined up. Yeah, so it is really compact, really easy to haul around, just on the heavy side, like I said. But again, that's to be expected with a cordless nail gun. So hopefully this has been a help to you guys. And by the way, this shoots all the way down to 1/2 inch pin nails, all the way up to I think it's 1 3/8 inches. So again, the ones that we're shooting in right now are 5/8. So not the smallest, but close. Maybe one of these days, as we use it more, I will do another video showing you guys how it functions with the bigger nails. I'm sure there's not a whole lot of difference, but you know how that can add a little bit of extra resistance. So anyway, I hope this has been a help to you guys. Hope it'll be useful. I would highly recommend purchasing one of these. Just again, beware of the I would call them safety flaws. Beware of the safety flaws with these tools, and enjoy. All right, this is Phil.